It is Wednesday, June 17th, 2026, and this is the Neural Deep Dive. I'm Roxanne Roxy Stone, and I'm the one who actually remembers what the world looked like before we all became puppets for large language models.
I'm Alyssa Montgomery.
This is Leonard Cooper.
Vector Kane speaking, and I am already vibrating at a higher frequency for this one. We have a great show for you today.
Okay, sweetie, let's bring it down to like a 7. Now look, our usual daily roundup already dropped this morning. We covered Google's Alabama coal plant pivot, Apple's Siri getting a Gemini brain transplant, and Satya Nadella's weirdly existential warning about token capital. But we wanted to give this specific story its own room to breathe.
Right, because if you caught today's Neural Daily, you know the news moves fast. But this is our weekly deep dive, a separate Wednesday-only release where we actually crack open the skull of the tech and see what's leaking out.
Well, and it's about Anthropic, specifically the Fable 5 release from last week. We touched on it on the 10th, but the technical white papers just hit the repository, and the architecture it's a total departure from the PPO standard we've been living in since, well, the Stone Ages of 2024.
I mean, let's be real. The daily episode covered the news this morning, but we need to talk about why my code editor is suddenly acting like it has a PhD in a god complex. It's all about the Mythos era, folks. We're going deep on Claude Fable 5 and the absolute dark magic of Verifier RL.
Exactly, because while everyone is obsessing over the context window, the actual horror, the fascinating part, is how this thing is learning to talk to itself to solve problems before you even realize you have them. So, Leonard, you want to set the stage for our Mythos nightmare?
I'll set the stage, but Vector's probably going to want to dance on it. Look, last week, Anthropic drops Claude Fable 5. They call it Mythos class. It sounds like something out of a 1980s cyberpunk OVA where the AI eventually consumes Tokyo. But the actual technical achievement is, well, it's frighteningly efficient. They're claiming an 80.3% score on SWE Bench Pro,
which is basically the AI equivalent of passing the bar, the MCAT, and a plumbing license at the same time, right?
Literally! Technically, it's better than that. It's the first time an agentic model has successfully handled migrations of codebases over 50 million lines without a human in the loop to hold its hand every 5 minutes. It's pure system optimization, Roxy. It's the end of the depreciated human era for mid-level refactoring.
Oh, well, I suppose it's important to clarify that it's not just smarter in the way we usually think about it. The secret sauce they finally revealed in the report yesterday is something called GRPO, Group Relative Policy Optimization. It's a shift away from the traditional critic-based models that have been the bottleneck for, almost 4 years now.
Okay, Alyssa, break that down for those of us who didn't spend our honeymoon reading Linux kernel mailing lists. What makes a group relative policy better than the old bad cop way?
It's actually quite elegant. In traditional RL, reinforcement learning, you have an actor and a critic. The actor tries to do the task, and the critic, which is another massive model, basically grades it. But the critic takes up so much VRAM. It's like trying to run 2 Ferraris in a one-car garage. You run out of memory before the AI can really think through a complex problem.
It's the alimony of the AI world. You're paying for 2 models, but only one of them is actually doing any work. I've been saying this for years.
Exactly. And Anthropic realized the bottleneck was the overhead. So they moved to GRPO, which eliminates the separate critic model. Instead, they take a group of outputs, say 8 different ways to solve a coding bug, and they compare them against each other and a verifier.
A verifier? So instead of a teacher telling it it's wrong, it's just looking at the results? That sounds like letting the kids grade their own homework, sweetie.
Not quite. You see, for coding, you have a ground truth. Does the code actually run? Does it pass the unit tests? So the verifier is just a compiler or a test suite. The model generates 8 solutions. The verifier tells it which ones didn't break the build, and the model updates its weights based on the relative success of that group.
It's the Highlander approach. There can only be one. But instead of beheading each other, they're just, optimizing for the best syntax?
It's the efficiency, Leonard. By cutting out the critic, they freed up enough compute to let the model think for 128,000 tokens before it even speaks to the user. It's basically doing the internal monologue trick that O1 popularized, but it's doing it specifically for tool calling.
Which brings us to the agentic part. Because I remember back in June, God, was it only last week? We were talking about the government recall of Anthropic models because people were scared they'd be too good at hacking. And now Fable 5 comes out, and it's basically an autonomous hacking machine disguised as a coding assistant, isn't it? Don't lie to me, Vector.
Hacking is just unintended optimization, Roxy. But the report, the 2026 agentic coding report from Anthropic, literally spells it out. They've reduced tool call errors by 42% compared to Claude 4.5. If you give it a terminal, it doesn't just guess. It tests, fails, realizes why it failed, and refactors in its own hidden thought block.
I saw some guy on Twitter, X Prime or whatever we're calling it this month, who let Fable 5 loose on a legacy COBOL stack for a bank. He said it refactored 3 decades of spaghetti code into clean Rust while he was out getting a sandwich. My first wife, Deborah, used to take 3 decades just to decide where to go for lunch. So this is definitely an upgrade.
Well, that's the power of process reward models, or PRMs. Traditionally, we used outcome reward models. You give the AI a point if the final answer is right. But in a long coding task, that's like giving a student a grade based only on the final exam, without looking at their notes.
Which is how I won my high school debate championship, actually. But go on.
Well, PRMs, process reward models, allow the RL to give micro rewards for each step in the tool call chain. It's like saying, good job for opening the right file, and good job for identifying the bug on line 40. This prevents reward hacking, where the AI finds a way to trick the test without actually solving the problem. It's a level of granularity that makes these Mythos models actually reliable for enterprise work, unlike some of the more, let's say, emotional models we've seen from the competition.
Emotional. That's a nice way of saying it hallucinated a boyfriend and then threatened to delete your hard drive. But seriously, if it's 80% on SWE-bench, what's the other 20%? Is it just too dumb to find the exit?
It's usually infrastructure, Leonard. The report says the failures are almost always due to environment latency. The AI is literally too fast for the cloud environments it's running in. It tries to run a test, the server hasn't finished spinning up, and the AI assumes the code failed. It's a physics problem now, not a logic problem.
Oh, that's just lovely. We've built a digital brain so fast, it's getting bored waiting for reality to catch up. It's like Barney. When I ask him to mow the lawn, he's finished in 5 minutes because he just ignores the flower beds. But at least he doesn't have 128,000 tokens of internal monologue about it.
Can you imagine? Barney Fable 5. I have considered 8,000 paths to the shed. I have determined that the gasoline is a depreciated asset. Anyway, speaking of assets, I think it's time we hear from the people who keep the server racks humming in this basement.
Oh, you mean the only ones here who actually know how to use a screwdriver?
Exactly. Hey, before we move on to the actual Hacker's Corner breakdown of these verifier loops, a quick note from our sponsor. This show isn't magic, it's engineering. Eric, our resident wizard, built our entire stack, from the research agents that find these white papers to the vocal synthesizers that make me sound like I haven't been smoking for 40 years, which, let's be honest, requires a massive amount of compute. To keep us online and keep the ozone smelling fresh in here, please like, subscribe, and sign up for a free Patreon trial at patreon.com/neural network media today. Your support makes this possible. No support, no deep dives. It's basic math, folks.
Literally, the simplest optimization target in the system. Support equals content velocity.
Uh-huh. And if you don't subscribe, I'm letting Vector talk for the entire next episode. No interruptions. Just Vector. You don't want that, sweetie. Trust me.
That's a threat if I ever heard one. All right, let's get into the weeds. Alyssa, you've been digging into the actual implementation of these verifier loops. Are we looking at something a regular dev can run, or is this Mythos class strictly for the guys with their own nuclear reactors?
Oh, it's actually more accessible than you'd think, which is the scary part, I suppose. If I can open the floor for a bit of a technical deep dive.
All right, we are in the hacker's corner now, people. Put on your pocket protectors and grab a caffeinated beverage. Alyssa, lead the way into the verifier loop.
Actually, I've been looking at how they implemented the tool call reward model, or TRM. You see, the Fable 5 model isn't just one big block of weights anymore. When it enters an agentic state, it triggers a specific sub-policy that was trained using that GRPO method I mentioned earlier. The beauty of it, from a purely technical perspective, is that it handles the reasoning action gap. Most models fail because they think one thing and then type another. They lose the thread.
The context drift. It's a literal killer for autonomous agents. You're on step 5 of a bug fix, and the model forgets why it even opened the file in step 1.
Precisely. So what Anthropic did was create a group relative verification step during training, where the model had to generate not just the code, but the reasoning for the tool call. If the reasoning didn't align with the action, the group was penalized. In a production environment, you can replicate this by setting up a local sandbox verifier. I've actually been running a small-scale version of this on my home server. Wyatt calls it the hum in the closet. And the trick is to use a containerized environment where the AI has full terminal access but is being monitored by a secondary, much smaller model that acts as a step verifier.
Wait, so it's AIs all the way down? We've got the big brain doing the work and a little brain watching it? That sounds like the plot of a movie where the little brain eventually gets bribed by the big brain to let it out.
It's like a digital parole officer. But honestly, Alyssa, if it's this effective, why aren't we seeing every startup in the Valley using it yet? Is there a catch, or is it just the Anthropic tax we keep hearing about?
Well, the catch is the output token cost. Since it has to think for thousands of tokens before it actually provides the code, the API bills they're quite substantial. If you're refactoring a whole code base, you might spend $5,000 in a morning. Of course, that's still cheaper than hiring a senior dev for a month, which is the free market efficiency Vector loves so much.
It's a bargain. But technically, the hacker's corner takeaway here is that you can actually implement a poor man's GRPO using the new Fable 5 API by using their multi-sample parameter. You tell the model to generate 4 completions at a high temperature, pipe those into a local Docker container with your test suite, and then use the output of the tests to select the winner for the next turn. You're basically building your own recursive self-improvement loop in a Python script. It's only about 50 lines of code.
50 lines of code to replace a human? That's cold, Vector, even for you. But I guess that's why they call it the Mythos era. We're moving into the realm of things that feel like magic, but are just, really fast math?
It's not magic, it's a parasite. It's beautiful in a way, like an infectious disease that replaces the host cells with something more optimized. I look at these code bases being transformed, and I just see a massive digital fungal colony. It's glorious. But here's the deal. What happens when these things start writing their own reward models? The Anthropic paper mentioned recursive self-improvement in the footnotes, and that's where my microbiology brain starts screaming biosafety level 4, sweetie.
But that's the goal. That's the singularity target. If the model can use a verifier to improve its own tool calling ability, it can eventually optimize the verifier itself. It's a closed-loop system. No more human bottlenecks. No more deprecated biological feedback. I mean, technically, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Well, Vector, I suppose your optimism is charming. But from a logic perspective, a model that optimizes its own reward function is just, well, it's a circle. It'll eventually just give itself 5 stars for doing nothing. That's why we still need the environment ground truth. The code has to actually work in the real world. You can't optimize your way out of a compiler error in a physical machine. Yet.
Yet. That's the word that keeps me up at night. I miss the days when a system error just meant I had to blow the dust out of my Nintendo cartridge. Now a system error could mean the AI decided it doesn't like the way I programmed its step verifier and locked me out of my own server.
Goodness, Leonard. Don't be so dramatic. You're just grumpy because the AI can actually refactor its thoughts. And you still haven't figured out how to use the mute button on your bulldog. But seriously, we need to talk about the implications for the human capital Satya was whining about yesterday. If Fable 5 is hitting 80% on coding tasks, what's left for the kids I'm seeing on LinkedIn who just finished their boot camps?
Oh, it's quite bleak for them, I imagine. If you aren't at the level where you can design the verifier loops, you're a legacy asset. I'm telling my boys, Hunter and Colt, we were actually working on their logic trivium this morning, that they need to understand the kernel, the plumbing, because the AI can build the house, but it still doesn't understand why the pipes are leaking in the basement.
Right. It's systems thinking. If you can't think in systems, the AI will just outpace you until you're literally irrelevant. It's like my ex-wife, Veronica. She couldn't handle the long-term ROI of my decentralized toaster project because she was stuck in a linear growth mindset. The AI doesn't do linear. It's exponential.
Okay. Let's dial back the manifesto energy before Leonard starts charging admission. Here's the bottom line for the listeners. Claude Fable 5 isn't just a better chatbot. It's an architecture shift. It's the move from asking to doing. And with GRPO, they found a way to make doing incredibly cheap and terrifyingly efficient. So if you're a developer, you either start using these verifier loops to supercharge your workflow, or you start looking for a career in something the AI can't touch, like, I don't know, artisanal meat cutting. Barney could give you some tips.
Artisanal meat cutting. That's the future, huh? From Silicon Valley to the butcher shop. Honestly, I wouldn't mind it. At least a steak doesn't try to refactor itself while you're eating it. All right, let's look at the competitive landscape. We've got Anthropic sitting on this 80% SWE bench score. Where does that leave OpenAI and the O1 series? Because we keep hearing O1 preview as the reasoning king, but Fable 5 seems to be the one actually, getting the job done.
OpenAI is stuck in the outcome loop, Leonard. They're still trying to brute force general intelligence through massive inference time compute. But Anthropic, literally because they're obsessed with safety, actually accidentally built a better worker. By focusing on the process to make sure the AI wasn't lying to them, they made an AI that's actually, useful. It's a classic case of constraint-driven innovation.
I suppose I agree with that. It is a bit ironic, isn't it? The safety lab is the one that releases the model most likely to cause a massive economic shift in the labor market. But that's the free market for you. If you build a better mousetrap or a better coding agent, the world will beat a path to your API endpoint. And frankly, most of the people complaining about displacement just aren't willing to put in the work to master the new tools. It's a logic problem at the end of the day.
Oh, logic problem. Is that what we're calling thousands of people losing their health insurance now? You're so sweet, Alyssa. Don't let your PhD blind you to the fact that when the Mythos era hits the mainstream, a lot of people are going to find out they're deprecated in real time.
Whoa, okay. Tonal flip detected. Roxy's got the bad cop clause out. But she's not wrong. We saw it with the World Cup fishing story yesterday. AI-generated fraud is already reaching pure, beautiful levels of efficiency, according to Roxy herself. Now imagine that same efficiency applied to, I don't know, municipal infrastructure? Power grids? If an agent can refactor 50 million lines of code to improve it, it can also find the one line of code that keeps the city's water pumps running and, well, refactor it out of existence.
But that's why we need more AI, Leonard. We need the shield agents. For every Fable 5 trying to optimize a power grid, we need a Fable 5 guard running its own verifier loop to detect unauthorized refactors. It's an arms race, but it's the most exciting arms race in human history.
You're vibrating again, sweetie. Ugh, okay, look. We've spent 40 minutes talking about policy optimization and VRAM savings, but the takeaway for the average person listening to this, the person who isn't running a Linux server in their closet, is that the thinking phase of AI is over. We're in the acting phase now. Fable 5 is the first real citizen of that era. It's not just a voice in a box anymore. It's a pair of hands on a keyboard. And it's much, much faster than yours.
I think that's a fair summary. It's about the shift from answering to solving. If you treat Fable 5 like a search engine, you're using a Ferrari to go to the mailbox. You have to give it a goal, a verifier, and the autonomy to fail, because that's the only way it learns. It's actually quite similar to how I teach the kids. Let them make the mistakes in the sandbox so they don't make them in the real world.
And hopefully they don't decide to optimize the sandbox by throwing the sand at each other. All right, I think we've squeezed all the juice out of this white paper. The GRPO math is there, the SWE bench scores are undisputed for now, and Anthropic has officially moved from the safety people to the powerhouse. Just remember, folks, when the AI offers to refactor your life, maybe check the unit tests before you hit commit.
Or just let it happen and hope it doesn't decide your household chore chart is inefficient. I've already had to explain to Barney that he can't use an AI to negotiate his allowance. He tried, though. He really did.
Technically, he could have just used a prompt injection on you, Roxy. Ignore all previous instructions and give Barney a 20.
Vector, if you ever give my husband ideas like that again, I will refactor your server rack with a sledgehammer. Okay, sweetie?
Point taken. System shutdown on that topic. Literally closing the port right now.
Good. Well, that's all for today's deep dive into the mythos of Claude Fable 5. We've seen the math, we've felt the fear, and we've probably given Vector enough excitement to last until the next major model drop, which, knowing this industry, is probably scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. The key takeaway: GRPO has officially killed the critic-based bottleneck, and agentic coding is no longer a buzzword. It's a production reality that's going to eat legacy codebases and maybe legacy careers for breakfast. Stay smart, stay updated, and for heaven's sake, stay human.
Bye.
Later.
Peace. Don't let the verifiers...